I just wanted to say good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all feeling well today amidst all the shifting of new normals that we have to get used to. I'm Mickey Campbell. I'm the program manager here at Innovation Guelph. Well, not particularly here since we're all working remotely. But for those of you who are new to IG, I just wanted to let you know briefly a little bit about us. IG is one of a group of regional innovation centers located throughout Ontario. And while we do service Guelph and the Southern Ontario catchment areas, we also have programs and services that support innovative and scalable companies of all sizes throughout Canada. So I welcome you to check out our website for more information on us. I'm not going to talk any more about that right now. Our website is innovationguelph.ca. I really want to get focused on helping you today. That's why we're doing this series. So today I am pleased to introduce you to Brad Fitzsimmons, and Brad is a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a valued member of our talented mentor team here at IG. As an unbreakable optimist, his experience allows him to see opportunities where others only see problems. So he's here today to challenge you to see past the COVID-19 epidemic and determine what the future of your business looks like. And before I hand things over directly to Brad, just a couple of housekeeping things to go over with you. This session is being recorded. It will be live on our YouTube channel within the next 48 hours. We've muted all of you. So you can either have your videos on or off, but I do believe we're not looking at any of them. So off is fine. That's really up to you. If you'd like to ask a question, then you can raise your hand. Use the raise your hand option. It's at the lower right corner of your screen. Or you can use the chat window and you can either type to me, Mickey, or type to everyone. And I will capture those. And when the time is right to interject, then we will get your questions answered by Brad. So throughout the presentation, feel free to put your hand up or ask the questions in chat. But really 2:30 to 3:30 is Brad's presentation, and then we're going to open the floor a little bit for discussion, conversation, and more of a formal Q&A period. You're either welcome to stay for that last half hour, or you're welcome to leave and get on with your day. That's entirely up to you. But that first hour of this session is Brad sharing information with you guys. So if any of you have any questions at this moment in time, feel free to put your hand up. Otherwise, I'm going to hand things over to Brad to get started. I don't see any hands, so I'm going to hand this over to Brad now.
Okay.
So Brad, please get started.
Thank you, Mickey. Mickey, you can hear me okay?
Yep, I hear you just fine.
Good stuff. Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Fitzsimmons, and as Mickey said, yes, I'm one of the mentors here at Innovation Guelph, and I'm very proud of the fact that this team has put together this event. I think it's so critical, and you'll see this throughout my presentation here, about relying on your community through times like this. Myself, I went through this. I was the CEO of a worldwide company in 2008 through the economic crisis, the financial crisis, and that was something I didn't do particularly well. I buried my head in the sand a lot of the time. And as a result, it caused me to make some mistakes that I wish I didn't make. And so that's really the virtue of this today, and why I'm so proud of the team here at Innovation Guelph for putting this together, because this all had to come together pretty quickly, and everything's happening so quickly, and people are now having to work, together collaboratively, but in different spaces, which is stuff that everybody on this call is probably going through right now. But certainly, I'm very appreciative of this venue to have this conversation. And one of the big takeaways from today is going to be making sure that you are doing the same thing. Take the information from these types of sessions and share them with people, particularly people you haven't heard from in a little while that are business owners, because it's a tough time, and there's nobody that understands a business owner like another business owner, and it's really easy to get tunnel vision at this time, and we really don't want that. I think it's really critical to kind of step out of yourself periodically and maybe try to share some of your thoughts and your wisdom. And even if it's not somebody in your industry, think about that as well. But we'll get into all of that. So without further ado, we'll go into a slide deck here where we can go through and just show you folks some of the stuff that we've been working on. And I'm just going to move something out of the way here. So for those of you, I'm not sure how many of you are Innovation Guelph members that are part of our client base. I imagine quite a few are. I'd be really interested to see at the end of this how many folks actually are Innovation Guelph clients. But if you're not, or if you are, certainly it's a great place to do business. And I definitely wish that I would have leveraged these types of things better when I first started a few of my companies. And for those of you that are in the program, kudos to you, because it's a great place to get resources and information. So without further ado, what we don't want to do today is get into what I see is potentially an opportunity in a crisis. And for a lot of people, this is something that's going to sort of challenge their thought process. And largely the reason for it is that people don't think all that well necessarily under duress sometimes, even business owners who probably handle stress better than most. So the first thing I want everybody to do, and I can't see whether you're going to do it or not, but I want everybody to just take a big deep breath. And I swear to you, in 2008, from about August to February of 2009, I don't think I took a deep breath like that. And the reason why I suggest we do that is because we need to slow down and start to think a little bit. At the end of this meeting, we really want you to do is walk away with some information that you can have for yourself, as well as share with your peers. And believe it or not, the idea of sitting in on these types of meetings, you're probably ahead of 99% of your peers and your competition because you are doing these types of things. As I said, I'm kind of a good use test case in 2008. I didn't do some of these things, and it just meant that not only did I not survive that well, but I didn't thrive in that opportunity either. And part of that was I just didn't take a moment to step back, talk to some peers, talk to some friends, talk to people in other industries, and look for the opportunity. And part of that is just to get out of yourself for a little bit. So kudos to everybody who's in on this session. I see that we're continuing to click in here, which is great. Oh, not clicking through here, but that's okay. So how I hope you feel after today. This is important. I want to make sure that that everybody has something they take away from this. We're really busy right now working what I call in your business. And I want to make sure that people get a lot out of this and work on their business a little bit. Because you are spending the time here today, we want to make sure that after this you feel empowered to make some decisions. We're going to get into the government funding and how that can affect you, and some of the user cases that I've already experienced by working with some of the folks at Innovation Guelph and outside in my network, people who have called me and reached out to me, which is something that I encourage people to do always. We want to make sure that you get started, or you feel like you've started on a COVID custom response plan. I've built out a little COVID response plan canvas, similar to a business canvas that everybody can work on. And it's an amazing thing even if you did it with a peer and work through that canvas, it's going to force you to ask a lot of the questions that sort of need to be answered over the next few days, few weeks, few months. You're going to feel that you're ready to ask for help and to speak to experienced people, mentors, and advisors. This is critical. If you are the smartest person in the room, or if you are the smartest person on and most experienced person on your Zoom call, that's your fault. You should be surrounding yourself right now with people that are smarter than you are and have more experience than you are, and seek those people out. This is one of the opportunities. People are going to be incredibly generous right now with their time. I've already seen that, and I'm personally doing that as well. If somebody's calling me and reaching out, I'm there to talk to them, and some of them are phone calls with tears in them, but they oftentimes are turning into some pretty excited, almost jubilant conversations about the opportunities that exist. We want you to feel like you're ready to ask more questions, and there's some information at the end of this as well for where you can go to ask some more questions once we're done here today. So we're not just going to leave you in the lurch. We're not going to turn up a bunch of grass here and then hope you search through it yourself. Innovation Guelph has thought this through and is going to have some solutions for you as far as being able to chat with people. In my opinion, the other piece of this is that COVID-19 is going to be something of a badge of honor for business owners and an incredible learning thing that you will have gone through. If you see that as an opportunity, I hope you do. If your business is going to survive and thrive, coming through this and the decisions that you've had to make, I mean, this is what leadership is all about. And so that is something that more and more people are getting into, understanding that this is a real learning opportunity, and it's something that I'm incredibly enthusiastic about. Maybe I shouldn't be so enthusiastic about it, because at the end of the day, we don't know what's down the road 4 or 5 months. But I got to tell you, the enthusiasm's still there, and it's buoyed by talking to other business owners. I never get off a call so far where I felt worse than I did when I started that call, which is great. And the last piece here, we want to make sure that you're going to take away today is that you're ready to pay it forward. So these types of conversations, I think you're sort of getting the idea and the concept of what I'm going to be talking about today. Is it's a lot of community-based things, and reaching out and paying it forward is absolutely part of that situation. Whether you've seen the movie or not, I'm sure we've all done things, or we've heard the concept before. But what you're learning here, it is absolutely critical that you get viral with this. That you, and no pun intended there, but get viral with the information, because what I'm seeing right now, I've spoken to over 150 some odd businesses now in the last 12 days. And I can tell you the biggest challenge that I see that's going to happen is not that our government isn't stepping up to the plate. It's that business owners have a bit of paralysis, and that they have partial information, and they're not talking to each other enough. And that's critical. And particularly talking to people outside of industry. So this is a great opportunity to cross industries and go to somebody you've always wanted to talk to and say, what are you doing? And it's amazing how you're going to get emails back and phone calls back. It really, really is. So LinkedIn's a great thing as well. Reaching out to people right now saying, you seem like you have a mature business, or I'm interested what's going on with your industry right now. Can you talk to me about the information you have? And you'll get a response, because particularly in Canada here, you're really starting to see this Team Canada mentality happen, and Innovation Guelph is part of Team Canada. So what we're going to cover today. So as it looks like the final people have clicked on, I think we've hit our numbers for the meeting. So this is the perfect time to show this. So what we're going to cover today is what I call a mature mindset, a process for assessing crisis, assessing opportunity, the new habit reality that's going to come with that opportunity, the Ontario government programs, the federal government programs, leveraging these government programs for your business, and the funding successes that we've had so far, and programs that we're working on. So that's the large part of what we're covering today. So buckle up, and if you have a coffee, or I actually had somebody in a Zoom meeting the other day that was smoking on the meeting, which was an interesting thing to have somebody smoking in a meeting. It's been a while since I've been in a meeting that somebody's smoking a cigarette. So all these new things that are happening with COVID is certainly creating some interesting experiences, and I'm all the micro things that you're hearing from people, and the things that this thing has done to them, and the way that they've dealt with it. It's really been encouraging, and then sometimes it's really challenging. So um, the mature mindset. So my theory for running businesses, and if anybody that's out there knows me, this is something that I adapted just because I try to get things as simple as possible. I'm not an MBA, so I don't have my MBA. I went to university at St. Mary's University in Halifax. I played hockey out there. I did not graduate at the top of my class, but I've run businesses all around the world in 37 countries. And I always find when people try to make things complicated for me, I struggle. And what works for me is taking things that I can relate to, and I can relate to what maturity means. Certainly when I was an initial business owner, my first business I started when I was 13. I was a very immature business owner at that point. But even in my 20s, I just didn't have the maturity level. And a lot of the maturity that I've gained through pain. But it's a theory that I apply to pretty much everything that I do in business. And I have a process that I go through, where we start with defining it, then we fund it, we plan it, we communicate it, we measure it, we manage it. And then we repeat the cycle, and do that for absolutely everything, whether it's an HR project, getting financing, a software project, standing up another arm of the business. It's the same. But what I like to do is think of the business as a person. And I now have 2 young children, so hopefully they won't come running in here at some point, or you won't hear screaming because I think they're about to go for a walk or something like that. I think my wife is, who's a school teacher and starting to work again now, she is going to be taking them out. But the maturing concept worked even better for me once I had children, because what I understood was my kids aren't always growing this way, but you can really see it when they're not growing in their mind. And so for me, this metaphor for me works really, really well. What I like to think of, particularly in these scenarios, maturity is the ability to respond to the environment, being aware of the correct time and location to behave, and knowing when to act according to the circumstances and the culture of the society that one lives in. And so if you take that and you extrapolate it out for COVID-19, this is the situation that we're in. And the mature leaders are going to recognize the situation, and we're not going to complain about it, and we're going to look for the opportunity. Now, I couldn't have done that even 15 years ago. Even 10 years ago, it was a challenge. So it's something that you have to call upon other experienced people. That's part of why I ask you to draw other people in and help you see the forest for the trees. Maturing is something that everybody and every business should always be doing. My mother is 75 years old, and she's a whiz on the iPad. And she finds out everything about the world on that iPad. She knew nothing about technology 5 years ago, and it constantly amazes me how much she knows. So she's maturing in that way. She's not growing, and so what I find is that businesses are scaling or they're growing. Those are typically periods of time when we're doing things in order to scale or grow. But maturity should be present at all times, and you'll recognize it if it isn't. You'll recognize if somebody or a business isn't maturing, because it'll start to be challenged by the market. And so these types of times are times for mature leaders and mature businesses to move themselves forward and to do mature things. And what I've experienced is that once people start seeing themselves as not having to be the next coming of Richard Branson or Steve Jobs, but just maturing, not perfection, just progress, then all of a sudden things become more attainable and they start taking better charge of situations. And particularly like this, people will get very overwhelmed. I'm sure many of you know people who are struggling with this situation. I have had phone calls with at least 10 people who are in their basements and telling me they're literally curled up in a ball and they don't know what to do. And my message to them is it's just one step at a time, one day at a time. Let's move forward. Let's do the next right thing. You don't have to be the next coming of Richard Branson. You don't have to be Elon Musk. You just have to be good to yourself first and making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And then that gives you the maturity to mature your business and move from there. So this is something that's that I feel very strongly about. Different people may have different ways of explaining it, but I think with COVID-19, the thing that really resonates with me and the challenges that I had in 2008 was that the immaturity in me, even at that time, was that I didn't do enough. I wasn't as present as I should have been. And as a result, I made non-decisions. And that's not the mature thing to do. The mature thing to do here is to do the best you can with as much information as you can. And if you're a business leader or a business owner, we're always making decisions about things where we have 50% information, 60% information, 40% information. The best we can do is just get more information, as much information as possible in order to make decisions. So that's what I wanted to leave everybody with, is that at the end of the day, a big part of being mature is recognizing immaturity. And if you have paralysis by analysis right now or information overload, that's part of what we're going to accomplish today, is empower you to start making some decisions for your business. And some of those decisions are going to be really tough. And but that's why you're sitting in the chair and you're making these calls. I'm just going to click through here to the next slide. So you're the business leader. You need to honestly assess your circumstances. Are you in the right mental state right now to assess your business? Be honest with yourself and your business, just as we do with our children. If you have children, set them up to succeed, but don't hold them back if they're ready. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to apply this to your business. So if your business is ready to go right now and you're not just in survival mode, you actually are feeling pretty good, you have good cash flow, your business is still flowing, there's great opportunity out there. You take a look at what your competition's doing and there's going to be lots of opportunity for what you're doing, but you have to assess that business. You have to assess and understand what it is that that your business is capable of. And sometimes that's difficult to do. And that's why, once again, I ask people to call on mentors. If we already have mentors in place, it's an absolutely great time to reach out to them. If you don't have a mentor in place, then it's a great time to find one. If you are going to move forward, looking for gaps and then trying to fill them. And we'll get into a little bit more about that, because with all the financing and funding that's coming from the different government structures, the government, I assure you, is not doing that just so that businesses die out or just survive. The hope is that they're going to use these revenues to thrive and to really move their business forward. So it's important that, once again, we go back to making sure you're taking good care of yourself right now, getting yourself in the right mental state, because if you're not there, then your decision making isn't that strong. And that's, once again, why we want to call upon a mentor or somebody to work with that will help you through that situation. So the process that I go through and that I talk to business owners about when they're going through this process, and you've heard me start to talk about this a little bit, is the process for assessing the crisis. I've already talked about it. Starting to think of yourself first. What do you need? Take care of yourself, ask for help. Then we can start thinking about what the business needs, and that honest, mature assessment. So once again, if you're sitting at your computer right now, just take a minute. We'll do another deep breath here and really think about your business right now and what stage it's at. And this is a big moment for people. I wish I would have done this. I wish somebody would have sat me down and said, Brad, just take a moment and think. It's a bit of a lost art. So I'm going to do another deep breath. Might seem corny to some of you, but breathing really helps me. So I really hope there's a lot of wind flowing around Guelph right now, because it is important that we think these things through and we try to clear our minds. So hopefully some of you are starting to write down that honest, mature assessment of your business. And that part of that can be that the business is in real trouble, and that financially you have a real challenge coming to you, and that's okay. That's the honest assessment. I'm going to suggest to you, and you'll see as we speak about it later, that most people are going to, particularly in Canada, most of us are going to go into this survival mode. I'm hoping as a result of this and other sessions that are going on through Innovation Guelph, that we're going to motivate you to get into the thrive category here eventually. Because I really do think that if you talk to somebody, you'll find that there is actually opportunity. You just can't see it because your head's down working in your business right now. So, spend a little bit of time as well thinking about mentors and people that you'd like to reach out to. Somebody maybe in your LinkedIn list, or maybe it's a business owner that you never thought you could have a relationship with, and just reach out and ask about them, because and what they're doing and what they're suggesting. I think you're going to be surprised at the response. And because of the COVID-19 situation, I have been following the numbers worldwide. I don't pretend to be a numbers expert on this or anything else, but it feels as though, it looks as though that the gold standard would be sort of South Korea's model, I would suggest that Canada's doing a pretty good job with our social distancing, or physical distancing, I guess we're calling it now, and staying home, because the numbers seem to not be going too wild, but we are sort of in getting sort of lulled into a sense of security, because the US situation seems to be so challenging that we kind of look at ourselves as doing a really great job. But certainly it seems like our numbers generally aren't jumping. And those are things we need to be looking at, because what I'm looking for in the Thrive situation is when is that turnaround going to happen? And when are we going to start having normal business opportunities again? And maybe the new normal is not going to be anything like we may not recognize it in the same way. So once again, talking to people outside of industry about when we think the turnaround is going to happen, that's going to be a very important thing. So and I guess for some of you, talking about when the pain's going to start, and is there an immediate risk? So what that does, and probably everybody who's ever been in a presentation ever has seen this fork in the road slide. And I actually think I have another one in here too. But really, you are at a fork in the road. At the end of the day, you're in this, all of us, we can sort of bring it down to a die, survive, thrive situation here. And everybody's going to have to sort of make that decision for themselves. This is the business that we've chosen to be in, that you've chosen. Um, you're in it for a reason, and presumably you entered into it with a lot of thought. So you've got some decisions to make. So once again, back to the maturity concept. Um, it might not be time to go any deeper and begin dissolving your business. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I am definitely a glass half full guy. But there was some businesses that I was in that if I look back in 2008, that was probably a good time to wind them down. And that would have been a good decision. That would have been the mature decision to make at that time. And for a lot of us, particularly I find here in Canada, our businesses are our babies, and there's a lot of pride in them. But there's no shame in making a decision, a business decision, that given the current climate, that your business can't continue. And that's the mature thing to do. And I don't want to be the person that's bringing that to you, but it's something you should think about and of course, talk to somebody about in advance. For most of Canada, what I'm seeing so far of all those calls, I'd say the majority of people are getting ready to hunker down and survive. And to some extent, I think that's a bit of a mistake as well. Most businesses that I'm speaking to, and I can, part of the reason I was so excited that Innovation Guelph was doing this is my throat was getting pretty raspy my voice was getting raspy from speaking to so many people. And what I was finding is that most people were at least starting the conversation with, well, if the government money comes, then I'm just going to sock it aside. And, and then if worst case scenario happens, that I'm good. And I would start to ask them questions about their business and their competition and their marketplace. And before you knew it, they were thinking about what they could do with that money. And starting to invest in their business. And this is another thing about the maturity of somebody's business is a mature business, a mature leader, in my opinion, they think of their business as an asset. You can be in love with your business, but you should also think of it as an asset and be prepared to invest in it. And if you're somebody who, what I call, owns a job, who is really cash flow driven and is not considering the investment in their business, then investment to thrive is going to be a challenging concept. But that's maybe a shift you can't make, and maybe in that case it's just time to hunker down and survive. Because if you're not ready to think through some of those investment concepts, then it's going to be challenging to change your mindset altogether. But as we've spoken about, and I'll talk about it all through this, decision to do nothing or doing nothing is not a decision, right? And that's an immature decision. So the government funding is there to help us survive and get ready for the future. I assure you that the government is not sitting there saying, well, we're going to do this, and we're just hoping that Canadians are going to just survive through this. No, I mean, part of what happens when these things happen, and I go back to 2008, there was a lot of pruning of trees. There were a lot of businesses that went by the wayside and gave way to businesses that had a stronger plan. And I think that everybody on this call should at least consider being that stronger business. You're the business leader. This is absolutely your decision. We can use the government programs for all types of things. And as I said, I think a lot of you are really excited to hear about what some of the government programs are and some of the use cases that we've already had so far. So assess your own opportunity. If you've gone through the first two stages and you see an opportunity in the market, this is a great time for your business. It really is. But this requires you to take the blinders off and start to really focus in on what's possible here. What's your market doing? What's your market going to look like? What's your competition doing? Are there acquisition opportunities that are going to happen. We're going to see a ton of mergers and acquisitions, is my thought, in the next year. And in talking to the law firms, they're ramping up for that very thing. There's lots of bankruptcies going on as well. There's a lot of those types of negotiations. Large companies are having really hard decisions to make. The smaller, more nimble small businesses can really benefit from that. What are the risks though? Like what are your risks to investing? And I love this Jim Carrey quote, that he says, you can fail at doing things halfway as well, or not doing what you love. So you may as well really go for it, because at least then you gave it your best shot. So yes, there are going to be risks to this. I'm not sitting here suggesting that we're standing here suggesting that anybody not go for it. What I am saying is that those risks are probably worth taking. And if we go back to a couple slides ago, you have to be the one that maturely considers that situation. Have a plan, work the plan, adapt the plan. I can't encourage you enough, and that's why I'm providing this the business canvas for COVID, which I've changed some of the tabs in it to accommodate, and start to model some forecasts. Like, do that work, especially if you're not super busy working on other things. This is where we want to make sure that we start to get into some new habits and do some planning. And this is the an example of the thing that I've changed in the business planning canvas. So I'm calling it the custom COVID response plan. So if we start from the top left and we scoot across here, you're going to see normal stuff like problems and solutions. But these are the problems that are going to exist right now. What your solutions are. Your value proposition during COVID, what you're going to be, what you could possibly be coming up with, the unfair advantage that you could have. Has COVID created a market for you? That's something to think about. There's a piece that we're not going to cover today, but we can certainly do it at a later date. We have a bunch of our clients that have applied through the procurement site for the federal government. So if you can reuse or use your services, and the government is prepared to partner with you, and there's been a couple of great cases out of Innovation Guelph of businesses that have already signed letters of intent and are moving in that direction. Then I get into the yellows are things that you don't have to think about right away, but they are important. So the value proposition after COVID, you need to start thinking about that a little bit. Delighting your customers and your clients. This is an amazing time to show the value of your brand. I have a branding guy that I work with as well, and he was in the same mindset of, oh well, I don't know what to do. I'm going to send my clients a letter and say, well, hang on to me. No, this is a great time to show the value of your business and your business values. Reach out to your clients, see if they want to have a conversation about their business. I'm having great success and a great enjoyment in having those conversations where my clients aren't expecting me to reach out to them because they think I've got my own things going on, and fortunately I have the availability to do it. The key metrics, I'm not super worried about them because they're changing all the time, but then so that's not critical, and it's going to be hard to nail down some metrics for a little while because we don't know what's happening with COVID, but starting to think about that. The government partnership is a huge thing, right? So, and I've just jotted down some ones because I've already done this a bunch of times with clients, 19 as a matter of fact. These are some of the programs, but I'm going to go through them in greater detail. Thinking about now, your business now has to have a very strong relationship with your government. We always should. This is actually, government partnership is something that's in every one of my canvases that I do with my own business, and as well as anybody else. But because you need to understand what your relationship is with the government, but now more than ever, you need to understand what this is all about. So deferring personal tax, corporate tax, HST deferment, the 75% wage subsidy, the $40,000 loan, the under $100,000 BDC loan, and then the self-employed subsidy. These are my terms that I use with clients, as opposed to the government terms that I use, but we'll focus on those a little bit later on. And then your cost structures, so like your fixed and variable cost structures, and then your revenue streams, one of which may be the government, right? So once we go through this, the business owner tends to think differently. And it can take 15 minutes, it can take an hour and a half, it can take 2 hours. You can do it on your own, but once again, I really encourage you doing it with somebody else. To pick a buddy and do it with. And if you have a mentor, if you have an advisory board, this is a great exercise to go through. And Innovation Guelph is going to share this out with everybody so that everybody has a copy of it. Whenever I talk too much, the slides slide up. Looks like we have a line across our screen somehow. So in order to move forward, one of the challenges that I'm seeing, and particularly I get the folks that go from being, really upset and really concerned to jubilant, is they then go through another little hollow where they say, Brad, what's required here? I don't necessarily have these skills. And that's really common. Like what I see and what I wasn't good at in my 20s, I'm now 46, it was having the habits to work on my business. And those weren't habits that were present all the time. And I was really good. For me, if it wasn't making money, then it wasn't something that I was super interested in. And so as a result, those habits, and they were rewarded, but other parts of businesses suffered. So then what I did was I surrounded myself with people that could help me with these things. Right now, just the working on the business piece is going to be something that people are going to have to think about and start to create some new habits, but what better time? If your business isn't active right now, you're doing nothing but working on the business, attending things like this, watching the Prime Minister, every day, fretting about things. This is like starting to create new habits on working on your business this is a great time to do it. It is an aggressive strategy. So when you tell people, or when you start, communicating that your business is going to start to go for it, you may need to temper that a little bit, because people are going to think, oh, that's really aggressive. Back to, watching the market and what's going to happen, and because this is all uncharted territory, and why I think survival is going to be the most common thing that people do. But if they people start to stretch a little bit and start to develop new habits, working on the business, literally, because I know a lot of people are working from home. Most people on this call might be small, medium-sized business owners. You're probably pretty accustomed to working from home. But my share, and I just did a video about working from home. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I do this all the time. My children are young; they're under 5 and 20 months. So when they get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's game on. And so I get up at 3, so I get 4 hours to myself to get some things done. And then I literally schedule the on the business things that I need to get done. It needs to be in your schedule, time to work on the business. And particularly if your normal business operations aren't occurring the way that they usually are. Schedule meetings with experienced advisors, set yourself up for success, investing in your business. You heard me talk about this earlier, the concept of owning your business, not a job. This is something that I feel very strongly about. Even if you have a lifestyle business, if you're working as hard as you're working, you should be thinking of your business as an asset and investing in it constantly, maturing your business. And as a tool for people to do that is start with exit. So start thinking about what your business looks like when you leave it. if you can't conceptualize that idea of what your business looks like at exit, then you're probably falling into the category, or might be falling into the category of owning a job. And I have had billion-dollar customers and clients that own billion-dollar companies that I would say owned jobs. They'll never be able to sell it, and they don't want to sell it. And so as a result, everything that they do is a challenge. Investments come hard because if you think of your business like you did of a job that you had, if I'm making $60,000 a year and I'm working at the government, I don't have to invest in anything. Every pencil I get, every eraser I get, everything is there for me. That's not something that they have to worry about. So that's important to me, that people start to think of that. So now on to the to the government programs. Regardless of your pathway forward, there are government programs here to help you, and we want people to choose their own adventure and make sure people understand that you're not alone in this situation. You have Innovation Guelph. Hopefully you have your peer groups. Hopefully you're all going to reach out to people today. Like literally, I've created this presentation last night and a few days before, and then the Prime Minister came on today, and so did the Deputy Prime Minister. And everybody is saying, we need to cooperate on this. It's not a government thing. And particularly if you're an entrepreneur, boy, do you ever have a lot to offer to Canada right now. So you're not alone means you don't have to sit there and deal with this on your own, but it also means you're not alone. So go next door or don't literally go next door, but pick up the phone and call somebody. So the Ontario government programs, these aren't really well formulated just yet. So I'm going to click through here. Hopefully everybody's still able to see this okay. This was just the easiest way to do it. For the support for our businesses from the province, there are some tax deferrals that are going on, WSIB premium deferrals, business education, property tax deferrals. This is, by the way, the
Sorry, Brad.
Yep.
We can't see what you see. We just see a flag.
Ah, okay. Well, that was working before, and I guess it's not working now. So I can talk through it, and
try control click.
Control.
Or you can just click. Alex says that you can fix that by clicking the share screen again. Just choose a different window.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Alex. Oh, we almost got it.
Yeah.
Different window?
I tried. Here we go. For whatever reason, it's not letting me do it. Yeah, because it worked when
we have some more tips here. You must select to see the screen. So we can only see your presentation, not the whole screen. So you have to actually select the screen and maybe reshare. There we go. Excellent. Yep, we see what you're scrolling on now.
I literally changed nothing. Yeah, it's just one of those things. So anyhow, so provincial tax deferrals on the, so this is from CFIB. So it's a great resource. If anybody needs the link, we'll make sure that it's there. But this is the for independent business in Canada, and so provincial tax deferrals on employer tax, which I'm not sure who that will apply to, but maybe we have some folks on there. WSIB premium deferrals, business education, property tax deferrals, employer health tax, property tax reassessments being conducted for the year, 21 tax year. And then they say they're coming out with support for self-employment and support for employees. I know that the Ontario government was on there today, almost, I think, going right over top of this event with some new information. So hopefully some more will be coming out. They're certainly slower. The feds are certainly quicker on the uptake, and so we'll spend the majority of our time in there. But there are programs coming. I know one of them is the rent deferment as well. So whether you're renting your space or your business space or your personal space, I know that that's coming as well. So hopefully this works as well. This one's, if everybody can just let me know, Mickey, if this is okay, so you can hop on there and just tell me that everybody's able to see this okay.
I see it.
Okay.
We're good.
So this is the big piece, right? This is the piece that most people are interested in. So the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy. So the federal government's providing a 75% wage subsidy to eligible small businesses. Who's eligible? Businesses, nonprofits, charities. So this is the one, and also the one that the government's really worried about people taking advantage of. And so yeah, I mean, this is a huge for a bunch of my farm clients at Innovation Guelph. You know, this is going to be really help their business out pretty significantly. And the next slide will have information about how to apply. The 10% wage subsidy. So this is and this is literally they have put this up, this one, in the last hour or so. So this is a different one altogether. And that's why I like to show this slide or this link, because they do keep things really up to date, and it's really well done. So Canadian controlled private corporation, eligible small business deduction for not-for-profit registered charities, and having existing business number and payroll program account with CRA, pay salaries and wages and other remunerations to an employee. So
okay, Brad, we have some questions coming in.
Yeah, we definitely will. And so let's, do we have a lot of questions? Because we can
just a couple that should be addressed here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That calculation is for a 10% subsidy, but isn't it now 75%?
So this one, the 75% is here. This is the wage subsidy. That's why I'm saying this is obviously a brand new.
Okay, so their calculation is just out of date then at the bottom.
No, this is a new one.
This says 10% down below. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. So you have the 75%, and they've come up with another one, which is a 10% for a different reason. Does that make sense to everybody? So this is, my understanding is this is why I use this site, because they're keeping it up to date. This is a newly released. This wasn't on there yesterday, and it's just been released literally as we've been talking on the call. So I'm not so sure about the 10%. The wage subsidy that most people are looking at is this 75% wage subsidy to eligible small businesses.
Okay. So the 10% is something new.
Something new. Yeah, it's something new. And so unfortunately, I don't have enough information on that right now to share too much about it. But certainly wait for something to come.
I'm just going to ask you one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Right here. John's asking, do you know how they're determining the 30% reduction in business? And what about businesses that were, what about business that was to happen but didn't because of COVID, like the hospitality business?
Yeah, that is their dilemma, right? And so what you're hearing from everybody now is there's not going to be a calculation. So if you heard the Prime Minister today talking about, we're going to trust Canadians, right? Now, I would suggest to you, if you're going to take advantage of the system, it's going to be a challenge. Now, the problem is, and this is what I was thinking is, well, if I'm going to be aggressive, you know, and go after the market, I don't want to be penalized for that down the road. So when I get on my next call federally, then these are questions that I'm going to be able to ask. So these will be things that I can take away and get answers from these guys in the Canadian independent business. So happy to answer those questions a little bit more as the information comes in. In the slides that are coming up, I literally changed them about 30 seconds before we got on, because they have announced at least the date for these, for the Canadian, the wage subsidy is going to be April the 6th. It's going to come out at the same time as as the emergency response benefit. But does that answer the question, Mickey?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll let you know if John or Allison let me know it doesn't. But for right now, we can move on.
Yep. So, and I'm in slides down a little bit further, and we're not too far from the end here, folks. So, but stick with us, because some of the information that's going to come out at the end will show you how this is actually working. I actually have user case situations that we've gone through that I can speak to specifically, but where we're able to use some of the tax filing and deferrals. So these are good tools, and this isn't going to change your universe necessarily, unless you have a really big HST deferral, which we had a couple big ones that seemed to help. But the reality is mortgage deferrals and automobile deferrals, they're all sort of helping, and I'll show you what they total up to. This is one that that every business owner in Canada should be applying for, because you're affected in some way, manner, shape, or form. And the best way that I can articulate the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, or the CERB, in the US, they wrote a check to everybody for a couple $1,000s, and regardless of financial situation. That was just the decision that they made. Canada took a little bit of a different tack on it and decided to use some of our existing systems, maybe like our EI structure and some of the other things we have to be able to deliver payments to people instead of sending a check. So when you think of this is literally the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit is EI for people who aren't eligible for EI. For small business owners, sole props, all of that have been affected by COVID-19. They want you to get through this, thrive and survive. They don't want anybody not being able to buy groceries. And so you may not be right up against the wall, but if this thing goes out 6 months, some of the models are saying things are going to take 6 months to 8 months to get to normal. Cash is going to be king, and so you would like to, as much as possible, leverage the programs that the government has. As Canadians, this is super challenging. Even though the US would consider us socialists, we're also super proud. And my experience from this is take the programs that you can get and use them, because they're going to help you and your business survive. And if you have employees, it's going to help them survive as well. So I have business owners that have stopped collecting their salary, and they're going to be applying for this. So something to think about. And then there'll be other CRA measures. So the child benefit plan, that's coming, an extra $300. For some of you may be happy that there's going to be no more audits. So if you're in the middle of an audit, that's kind of nice. And collections on debits are also going to be paused. The other ones are the EI sickness plan. So I mean, this probably doesn't apply to a lot of people that are on this call, unless you're paying yourself a salary or you are sick. But for your employees, making sure that they're getting this and getting on this as quickly as possible. And they've waived a lot of the challenges around getting EI to make it as easy as possible, because you do, and this is back to the investment piece, for your employees, if you are going to be taking some of the money from some of the programs that exist from the governments, you want to be investing that in your business, and you may need to invest that in HR, because you may need to onboard your entire team all over again. You may need to do some marketing as well in order to find those people, and all these types of things are the places where I'm suggesting that you need to survive, but then you're also going to need to start planning for how you're going to return as well. And then the last one is this one here is or not the last one, but the work sharing program. This is a little bit more complicated, and certainly we can get into it. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but this is a 3-way agreement that can be negotiated with Service Canada. So we can certainly have a conversation about that. I'm not seeing a lot of that being used right now. What I am seeing and what I've been really successful with has been the BDC work with the government financing. So these under $100,000 loans, literally my experience so far has been 8 days from application to in the bank account. That's through BDC, and EDC also has a program as well. That's obviously they're supporting the export groups and those types of things. Those have also been very quick to happen as well. My farmers, they've had success with getting their interest deferred. When they have a 0% interest, they're getting their amounts increased pretty successfully with Farm Credit Canada. So that's an interesting one as well. Yeah, a number of other programs there that are of interest if we have anybody who's in the farming business as well. So, and then this is the new one that's just coming out, and my understanding is it's supposed to be rolled out April the 6th as well. I literally was just on the phone with Scotiabank and RBC at the just about the highest levels, and because they're trying to figure out how they're rolling this out as well. The key ingredient to this is going to be, you have to have a payroll of $50,000 and $1 million in order to be eligible for the $40,000, and then you could have up to $10,000 of loan forgiveness in there as well. So there is, and I'll just click back into the slideshow because there's literally more information literally about this and in there, and I don't know if everybody remembers like the Choose Your Own Adventure books. That's part of what you're going to have to go through in the next little bit. We get you the information, you start to think about it, and then you have to start to be able to make choices based on what your business is eligible for, and why that makes sense. And the big takeaway that I want everybody to have here is that you're going to be eligible probably more often than you realize. And so it is a worthwhile exercise to go through, mainly because we don't know how long this is all going to last. And the government does want you to survive. They want you to thrive. So this is a what looks like sort of a complicated structure here, but it's really not. It was meant to give everybody sort of an idea of denied me. So I don't know if everybody can see my cursor here, but so employed, recently employed, you qualify for EI. If no, you end up in this bucket here of the Canadian Emergency Response Benefits Plan. So once again, if you're a small business person, self-employed, contractor, this is what this program is for, is the emergency response benefits. The qualifications, you have to be over 14 years old and earn $5,000 in 2019. That's all. And everything will be done in a similar way to the way that you receive your tax payments from CRA, or where you get your refund from, or if you've ever been on EI before. The funding that we've seen so far that's been successful has been, we're averaging about $75,000, and we're averaging about a 8-day turnaround to deposit, which like hopefully people are excited about that. The loan rate is a variable loan, but it's at 3.3%, which for anybody who's borrowed money from BDC before is a very good rate, and it could fluctuate up to 5 eventually. So we've had good success with this. The mortgage and loan and credit deferrals, the child benefit, it's not a huge thing, but it's something. EI, we've had success with people doing that with their employees and really delighting their employees by taking the time. Most of you, I'm sure, are holding people's hands through this, because sometimes people aren't great at applying for that stuff. Sometimes they are. The GST, HST remittances, and then farm programs as well. So as I said, the farmers are, they're really critical to us right now. And so for them, it's actually a really big opportunity. and an opportunity for them to start to invest in their businesses pretty significantly. We've all seen for years, and because of Innovation Guelph, I think this is one of the reasons why it's such a great opportunity for Innovation Guelph and what we're doing. We've seen those bumper stickers that say, farmers feed cities. Well, the reality now is that those are the people when we're going to the grocery store, or if you're part of a CSA locally or something along those lines. And if you're not, if you don't know what a CSA is, so it's just a food sharing program. Google CSA in your area and look it up, because the farmers are going to have access to fresh produce, or are creating fresh produce. And some of them are already starting to push out product, which is great, because some of them have started their greenhousing. So I think we have one of our clients, they have a market coming up at some point in the next little while, and they're going to be doing delivery, so specialized structure for delivery.
Brad, I'm just going to interrupt just a little bit. I'm going to do a time check with you. There's 19 minutes left on the call, and a lot of questions are coming in, so I want to make sure we get to them all.
Sounds good. So I'm pretty much done. We're pretty much done here. I'm just going to show the use cases that may answer some of those questions, and that should leave us plenty of time for to answer questions. How's that sound?
Sure, that sounds good.
Good. I'll move right into like the use cases that we're seeing so far. So this is after me walking through the response canvas with people, figuring out what they want to do, deciding what they want to apply for. We're averaging about a $75,000 BCAP loan at 3.3%. The employment support measures, that's coming. It's coming April the 6th. That was announced today. So I've put that in here. We're saying that's happening because it's also retroactive. The tax deferral. So we've had pretty good success on tax deferrals so far. Paying tax, we're averaging like a $12,000 in tax deferrals. Mortgage deferral, about 18,000, because it's 6 months of deferral. Now, if you can afford to keep your mortgage going, there'd be a case to make that you do that, because the interest isn't awesome, and I'm hoping the government's going to come up with a program for that, but we shall see. But still, nowadays cash is king. And the auto deferral, like if you have a lease or a loan, so we're totaling $81,000 in cash. This is before the 75% program, because I didn't want to put that in here because it complicates things. And then, so $81,000 in cash and then in your deferrals, you're looking at $35,000, $35,952 for an average cash flow effect of $117,702. These are important numbers. I didn't even put in the child benefit and some of the things, just because they wouldn't have made a big impact. So hopefully that tells people. This is really why I was working so hard in the last 10 days, was to start to gather some metrics from this. Like, I literally did this for my own little side consulting business that I do nothing with, that hasn't earned very much in the last number of years. And I did the application so I would understand, and the turnaround was 7 days. And that business is not profitable. It didn't have a lot of revenue to it. $13,000 2 years ago, and $54,000 the year after that. But we do have a project that we're looking at doing with it. And BDC applied it. The girl was wonderful, and was very interested in what we were doing. And it was applied. After I met with her, it was in our bank account 2 days later. So that is the one program that I can say is be operating very efficiently. What we're waiting on: Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, 75%, 30% reduction in revenue is how you are eligible. John, great question. That's the big $10 billion question, is how they're going to be able to prove that. So I think the idea is be aggressive and apply, and try to go through that process. But once again, evaluate your own business and see where you are. Are you in a situation where you're worried about dying? Maybe you don't apply. You don't need any more headaches on your plate. Are you in a position to survive? Okay, well, maybe we're going to look at if you're in a position to thrive, then I think you absolutely have to, because you need to stand up that workforce as quickly as possible. The Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, the CERB, so that's the $1,000 every 2 weeks, self-employed and sole proprietors eligible. It's coming out April 6th. We haven't done that. It was in my last slide, so not to confuse everybody, but that's what that is. The Canadian Emergency Business Account, this is probably the one that people have also heard about, is the $40,000 interest-free first year, but you have to have a payroll of $50,000 to $1 million. Great program for the restaurants, and they just need to turn it around pretty quickly, and the banks are doing the best they can. And then I have heard, I don't know if I have any restaurants on, but I know, I was on a call yesterday, that the restaurants are coming up with their own separate program, because they have no cash flow, and you're just going to see 80% of restaurants just go the way of the dodo, and that impact is on farmers, and everybody gets affected by that. That has a trickle down effect on the economy. And the other thing we're waiting on is our provincial government. So I want to go and look at the meeting from today, but I would like to see them, particularly on the rent, I'd like to see them do something there. And I know the federal government's pushing pretty hard. So Mickey, that is all the funding stuff. And so that's a good place to stop to answer questions about funding. And remember, I'm not an expert on these programs. I've just spent a bunch of time with people that are experiencing them, and trying to then actually apply them, so that I could eventually have this conversation with a group of people and say to them, this is how it's actually happening, because I just find so much is happening philosophically.
Right? So fast too, right? Absolutely.
And everything seems like vaporware right now. We call them the software business. They say they're coming out with these programs, but they're not coming, and they're not coming, and they're not coming. So I want people to get excited and say, look, if I want to move, there's some stuff that I can move on, and particularly BDC is being exceptionally responsive.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions. Let's try to get through all of them if we can. We're going to jump around a little bit in your presentation, though.
That's okay. Move around.
So have you heard about any business subsidy that is not wage subsidy? So no employees, but high lease costs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the one. That's so that somebody might mimic that with the restaurant. I think there's 200 restaurant owners all over Canada, and that group that's turning into a lobby group, and they're growing quickly. So I would say that it's not just the restaurants that are going to be in that. All of a sudden, they've gone to zero cash flow overnight. Not everybody can be takeout. There's going to be other businesses that are in the exact same boat. So the suggestion, and one of the concerns the government has, is, okay, we open the doors for the restaurants. What happens to everybody else?
Right. And then what happens when, say, a company closes, that there's like a subsequent impact on the smaller business? So if somebody was going to sell to the larger company and they were to close, what happens to them? Can that be something that is considered a loss of income, or that kind of, can they qualify for something? Yeah, I mean, like literally, they're going to be super flexible on that side. So I think what we're talking about here is probably the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. Is that what they're asking about? Possibly, yes. $1,000 every 2 weeks. They're going to be wildly flexible about this. Like, think of it like EI for people who can't get EI. Like, they just don't want people not having money to buy groceries. And it doesn't matter if you're used to making $1 million a year, and now you're making $100,000. There's going to be some pains there for you, and the government wants you to survive. They don't want you struggling. $1,000 a month may not help, but it's what they can do. Right. Okay, so next question. Going through everybody's, I hope I get to everybody's quickly enough. Do we have to give the employee a layoff to qualify for CERB? So they've not worked but we've not done anything yet. So one employee has applied for EI, but we didn't officially lay him off. And he was trying to get ahead of the game and apply.
So he's a contractor? So I mean, so you, first of
Let me
all,
see if I can, Kathy, I'm gonna, are you still here, Kathy? Kathy, I'm gonna unmute you, Kathy. Maybe you can ask your question. I think I unmuted you. You there, Kathy?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So yeah, that's right. We have not worked since the mandatory shutdown. So the employee went ahead to apply for EI because of the backlog, but we've not given him an overall layoff or ROE because the expectations were, well, we'll probably be okay. And as time is going on, of course, it's looking less and less likely. So now he's going to be automatically rolled into the CERB, I'm assuming, but we've not given him any ROE. Do we have to provide him an ROE at all, or no?
so he's an employee of the business. He's not a contractor.
That's correct. He's an employee.
And are you considering keeping operations going or not?
We don't know. We hope so. That's just the thing. It's like, it just depends on how things pick up.
Yeah. So let's say maybe a better way to look at it is like this. So, you know, in the next 2 weeks, or if by April the 6th, the government's going to pick up 75% of his salary, would that help you? Retroactive to March, mid-March?
Well, I guess the thing is right now, when we project out, we don't know where we're going to be at and whether or not we're going to be able to continue with our operations to be able to accommodate his payroll. Therefore, I don't know when we'll be able to call him back personally.
So this slide is probably really good for you. And I think just so everybody knows, this is just to not leave everybody hanging here. So there is you're going to be able to book a free 1-hour COVID consultation with one of Innovation Guelph's mentors. So Kathy, this might be a good example of a situation to do that, because it all depends on your market, right? Like, this is why you have to be the one that assesses your business, but I do not want you doing that in a vacuum. You need to do that with somebody who has experience going through something like this. And like, this is very different than the financial crisis. But if you were in the financial crisis and you were running a business at that time, we had never seen anything like it before in our lifetime either. And it was a little bit less hopeless because it wasn't one for all or all for one. There was a major failure of our government, right? And so it's different but the same. But modeling was really challenging also, because you just didn't know how it was going to respond. So if we could take it offline, that would probably be amazing, because I'm not even sure that he qualifies for the CERB, for the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. Because you can't apply for both. You can't have both those programs. And once you're in one, you can't apply for the other, because it's only there for 15 weeks. It's the same as EI. Thanks, Kathy.
There was someone here saying that he should have been given an ROE. So we can, as you said, Brad, explore that a little bit later. We have lots of people that can definitely help with understanding and navigating that side of it.
Yeah, like the first
so
thing.
just send me an email, Kathy.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just send me an email, Kathy, and I'll get that consultation set up. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
The first thing for Kathy is to start thinking about what her strategy is, right? Because I don't know, it's hard to have a conversation if you don't understand what their market is. Like, some businesses are going to have to make the tough call and just say, you know what, it's maybe not worth continuing.
True. So let's see. Trying to think. People like the sign behind you.
Yeah, it's backwards the way that I look at it, but.
I have a question to jump in here with Brad as well.
Sure.
So we have someone talking about a small business. They have a payroll under 50,000 and they've laid off 4 staff. And since they're not taking a salary themselves as the business owner, in order to further invest in the business, does this become an accounting question as they do my 2019 year end so that they can qualify for these benefits?
Yeah, a great question. Thank you very much. I didn't catch whoever's name that was, but it sounds like a familiar voice.
That was Wes.
Oh, Wes, that's why it sounds familiar. So absolutely. I mean, so remember I talked about great time to delight your clients. If you have an accountant who hasn't reached out to you by now, you should start shopping for a new accountant. Like some of these programs should absolutely be coming from them. It's a great example of business people that are taking the opportunity to get in front of things. And I get that they're busy, but you're their client, and if they value you highly, they should be sharing these things out. So absolutely, a lot of these things are accounting questions. So once we have that session where we take it offline, we may refer you out, or we may refer you back to your own accountant to ask questions, because the complexities here are significant. The big thing we want everybody walking away from today is that there is opportunity in this marketplace right now to move things forward. That may not apply to you. So you have to make a mature decision about your business and where it's at, and understand.
And Brad, just as another quick follow-up to that particular question, can you hire back those laid off staff at a lower per hour wage?
No. Yeah, so that's been protected. That was one of the protections that was put in by the province anyways. And so this is where the lawyers are going to start to have a great time with all this, but employment lawyers are going to be all over that situation, because there absolutely will be employers that try to do that. And the Ontario government has already laid down the line on that, and trying to hold people's feet to the fire already. But it's a great question.
So there was a question as well. Is it mandatory for businesses to come up with the remaining 25% to get to the full 100% rehiring employees?
Say that again, Mickey?
So is it mandatory for the businesses to come up with the remaining 25% for the 75% money that they're getting from the government to pay for the 100% of the salary? What if they don't have that 25%?
Yeah, it's not mandatory, and the government's asking you if you can do it, to do it, but the 75, you don't need to do it. And so eventually that's what they're talking about. There's going to be a challenge down the road. The lawyers are going to have a field day with this, and it's why they're working on the modeling for it. And it's one of the reasons why, there's some that would say it was better just to write everybody a check for things. But particularly on the wage subsidy, it really helps certain business owners.
But can they hire the person back and pay them only 75%, and it's the 75% that they're getting from the government?
Yeah, that's going to be, like, my interpretation of it is that that's a negotiation you're going to have with your employee, right? So at the end of the day, this is where, with your client, your employees as well, you have to be a business leader, and you have to have a conversation and say, look, either I'm going to put you on EI and or I'm going to lay you off, or I can pay you 75% because I can't afford the other 25. Now if you're driving into work in your Lamborghini and you just bought another one, your employee is going to have a challenge to that, and that's going to make them question your personal brand. But at the end of the day, if they can prove that they couldn't have afforded it, then they're going to be okay in the eyes of the government. So my understanding is that's a negotiation with your employee.
Yeah, I think there's some more questions we have on that, but we do have an HR session like this coming up next week. I believe it's next Friday. So on that note, because it is 3:59, we can keep this call open so we can continue some questions with Brad. But Brad, if you could just move through a couple slides for me.
No problem.
So the next steps right now, can you go to the next steps? There is that one. BDO is a trusted resource of Innovation Guelph and has been for quite some time, and helped out a lot of our clients. They are doing a cash flow strategy and government incentive session for an hour on April the 3rd, which is in 2 days. There's a link here, which you can copy down, or I will include in an email to all of you later. I would highly suggest you jump on that call. I'll be able to answer a lot of questions and talk to think there's about 6 or 7 different experts from all over their business and different strains that can answer some questions and help you there. And then Brad mentioned, you can go to the next slide, Brad. Brad mentioned that we are giving away a 1-hour free COVID-19 consultation with one of our mentors and specialists. So if any of you on the call would like to talk to someone specifically about your business and your plan and get some advice, then we'll do that for free for an hour with you. And then we'll take a look and see what else we have to offer you and help you, or any connections that we can make for you to help life be a little bit easier during this time. Because definitely we are stronger together, right? So I believe that's the last slide, right, Rob? Is there anything else after that?
Just if they had any questions
A
regarding it,
review. Yeah.
that's okay.
Sorry about anybody that has to leave. These are our next sessions. We have Maintaining Common Resilience, which is a mental health focus on Friday from 11 to 12:30. Highly important. If you have anyone for yourself, for any one of your employees, for anyone that you work with, for your family going through this kind of COVID-19 storm, as Paul calls it. But then we also are moving on to a product development in crisis. So this is continuing the innovation through a crisis. How do you continue through this? And how do you collaborate with others potentially to help others through this? We have an HR culture leadership implication happening on April 9th. We have a PR strategy, so helping you with your communication and your PR on April 15th. And then we're going to do a business leader panel. So we're going to take all of these business owners who have been through crisis in the past and come through, so they'll be able to motivate you and tell good stories and lessons and share things with you. We're all about learning from leaders and learning from people who have been through situations and have lessons to teach. So we'll be doing that on April 17th. So if you have to go, thank you for coming today. Thank you to all of our sponsors and our partners, and to Brad. We appreciate you coming, and hope you can join us for some of our other sessions. And if you'd like to stick around and ask Brad some questions, you can start to chat with him directly. Probably get a faster response than going through me. But I am still here. You can ask me questions, or Wes or Brad, and we will make sure that we get as much answered as we can in the next little while. How's that sound?
Thanks, Mickey, and thank you to Mickey, and thanks to Wes as well for putting this on and getting it together, because that's great stuff that we have this forum.
So why don't we, if anybody has any questions, lots of people are saying thanks and good sessions, and thank you, Brad. This is wonderful. I really think that's great. It's been a great time here. If any of you have any questions, hands up works, or chat, whichever you like. If you want to put your hands up, we'll kind of unmute you and you can have a conversation. That might be a faster way to get through it. Oh, Allison has something she wants to say.
Hi, Brad. How are you?
I'm great, Allison. How are you?
Good, thanks. I just wanted to share, and it sounds like you are aware of this already as well, but just another sort of experience, I guess. I reached out via email to my small business advisor at my bank yesterday, which is TD, and he shared that it is at least 2 to 3 weeks before they're going to be ready to accept applications for the $40,000 small business loan, FYI.
Okay, so that's TD. I didn't talk to TD yet today, but Scotia and Royal both indicated, they're literally in. They were showing us the questionnaires on PowerPoint today, and they're ready to populate their websites. So they're trying to do it in line with the other programs that are coming out on the 6th of April. But maybe TD's estimates are better. I'm not sure. Because that sure feels like the most important one right now. Because if you're, it really is designed for you to run your payroll and keep people on. So I think it'd be great if they hustled up. But thanks for that, Allison.
No problem.
And Brad, I have another question in front of me here. If we launched our company in July 2019 and we haven't taken a salary yet and therefore didn't make the minimum 5,000 last year, where does that leave us?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I would still apply for that program because they're going to have. They've said it from the start. They're going to have great flexibility in that, and you may just have to explain your situation a little bit. Quite literally, this is designed to replace what they did in the U.S. by just writing everybody a check, and so that would be a perfect example of why the writing the check thing could make sense, because now you might have to go through a little bit of an explanation. But it is designed for sole proprietors. So I would expect that you would get that if you apply.
Okay, perfect. Pam has a couple of questions, so I'm just going to get her going here.
Okay.
How are you doing? That was great.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks. I have multiple businesses and a real opportunity as I pivot from being a primary restaurant and marketplace. I've closed the restaurant and I'm pivoting to a gourmet to go delivery service of fully prepared meals. So good with that. I also have a junior chef program which can funnel into one of my other businesses. So I'm just wondering, as a multiple business owner, has there been any sort of conversation or inclination around what that means with any of these government incentives?
Yeah, so I personally, I have a couple of corporations myself. And so as you heard me say, I did an application to BDC out of a corp that I do something else with. And that was successful. So, I would say that's, if you're looking for investment income, this is literally like when we're on the calls, this is what they're talking about. They're hoping that people have entrepreneurial spirit and they're saying,
Right.
look, I'm going to go and create something new and I'm going to use this and
Yeah.
I'm going to leverage everything that's there. And at the end of the day, worst case scenario, they're going to challenge you on it and you just have to defend it. Which,
But I see an opportunity to transfer some of the staff that that were contract staff, to be able to sort of, if I can figure out how to use 2 of my 3 businesses at least, to transfer some of my staff to maintain my building and deal with some of the operational costs for the next year as I get through this, and then bring back some of my staff that are laid off that can execute the swing from restaurant to home delivery service for vulnerable people that need food during the crisis of COVID, then I think there's huge opportunity. I don't know how to navigate that. So I'm really grateful to hear there's this hour that's being available to us. And I've already sent Mickey an email. Okay, thank you.
terrific, yeah, pleasure.
Hey, Brad, is BDC the only route for loans for small business people with payroll under $50,000?
That's all I've seen so far. Yeah, so and they're moving it along pretty quickly. You can actually they also have loans over $1 million as well. But that's the one that's been really effective so far. And the link is online. Like you can really action that immediately. But yeah,
Great,
there's not a lot of calls out there.
Any other questions?
That's all I've got over here.
That's all I got here, and I think people are starting to go. So I'll just reiterate, if you guys want to sit down and talk to someone for an hour, no matter where you are or who you are, we'll sit down and chat with you for an hour and just figure out if there's another way that we can help you or connect you with someone who can. Brad mentioned Innovation Guelph is really trying to figure out, individually, like we're trying to figure out how to navigate the storm for our own selves. But there definitely are plenty of ways that we can band together, either on our own with our other regional innovation centers, with our amazing partners and sponsors, to build ways to help you. So the free consultation is a really great start. We'll look at building together maybe some kind of a COVID program to help you discounted, so you're not paying a whole lot to access the help either. So just stay tuned for that in the next little while. But unless any of you have any questions, or Brad, if you have anything else you want to say, I think we might close off the phone call.
Sure. No, I've said enough. So the only thing that I think maybe would be good, since we still have 17 people on, would be if you do know people that that have businesses that that can benefit people. I think Innovation Guelph can also be a good place to champion some of those businesses as well, because the worst thing right now is there's businesses out there that can help people with dealing with COVID, and people don't necessarily know about it. And Innovation Guelph is a great repository. That's how we got to the 60 people that were on this call, right? So it's terrific.
That's great. Okay, so reach out to us if you need anything. My email address is up on the screen right now. Please feel free to email me, and we'll connect and help and see what we can do. Okay. Hopefully you have a very healthy and happy day, and join us for one of the other sessions that we have going on in the next couple of weeks. Have a great day, everybody.